Hi everyone, welcome into today's session. So a lot of you guys have been requesting that I invest on making the sessions to be more interactive, have some of the videos on YouTube. So what we did is to invest on resources that will allow us to have interactions such as these ones, where I teach you live on YouTube, and you can have access to this content in your own spare time. What we are going to be doing today, we are going to have a recap as to what has been done so far, what is happening, so that even others that were not able to catch up on our Google Meet sessions, they will be able to get up to speed as to what we have been doing so far. So what we are currently doing is to build AI agents, right? And we looked into the technologies that we use to build AI agents, which is your Laravel AI SDK. We looked into your Claude Code for you to be able to write the code. Then we looked into Google's Gemini, where we use the Google's Gemini API key to be able to connect the LLM with the interfaces that we are working on, right? And there is a couple of technologies that we haven't touched into, although we touched into the model context protocol, but there are certain protocols that we haven't touched into. There are certain technologies that we haven't touched that can enable you to build AI agents which are near to accurate in terms of the autonomous execution of workflows, right? And that is one. We talked about the built-in Laravel functionalities, which is to work with queues, where you are able to get different prompts, and the prompts that you have are going to be queued, executed in base. They are going to be executed based on what has been queued in terms of the jobs. So how queues work is that you are going to have a task that can be executed after a certain task has been executed. So you're looking at what we call a sequential workflow. So if task A has been executed, then you can move on to task B. So in a manner in which the tasks are being sent into the job for execution, that's sort of like define your sequential workflow. So if you have your Laravel installed on your system, what you're going to do is that you're going to have different sets and tasks being executed based on your queues. But what it does is that it's sequential. So one job has to be executed, which we're gonna call job A, has to be executed before job B is executed. That's creating your sequential workflow, right? Then the other workflows that you can look into that are also supported by your Laravel AI SDK is your concurrent workflow, right? When would you consider to use concurrent workflow is when your workflow does not depend on any other workflow. For instance, they are they are not related. So you can do workflow A and do workflow B at the same time without needing the results of workflow A for you to be able to execute workflow B. Then we call that concurrent workflow. So you in that manner, what that allows you to do is to do concurrent agents. Why would you want to implement concurrent agents? It's when you have an agent that you do not need to wait for another agent before it runs, because whatever that agent is going to be doing is going to be independent of what the other agent will be doing. So in that case, you're going to need to execute a concurrent workflow using the concurrent library that is within your Laravel AI SDK. So it's very, very important when you are using, you are building multi-agent AI systems where you sort of like know that the task at hand that has to be executed needs a lot of work to be done before you can go into your finishing point. With that said, I think it's very important for you to know the starting point of your task execution from your AI agent and your end point of your task execution, because within that process from when you're executing your A up to B, you're going to have those micro steps that have to be executed in order for you to get into B. So knowing that will help you to know what steps and how to properly design your AI agents, right? And what we haven't looked into as well, it's other technologies that you can incorporate with your Laravel AI SDK, and the ones that you can incorporate with your model context protocol, your MCP. We did look into the MCP and how does it help you into build AI agents. And we also established that at the base level of every AI agent, you're going to find a model context protocol, which is used to communicate between the LLM and the data access and the tools access that you have within your system, right? So what you can do as well on top of having a model context protocol to build your AI agents is to have different orchestration frameworks, right? You can use what we use in our entity is that we use what is called Roadrunner. Roadrunner has something which is called gRPC, which is your procedural remote procedural calls. And having that, it allows us to move away from having to build in the jobs and the queues and the workflows within within your Laravel AI SDK. I'm going to talk more about the benefits of that in our upcoming sessions, where I show you hands-on as to why you might need to choose your Roadrunner instead of using the built-in Laravel work and queues, due to the fact that sometimes the queues or the worker may fail, and when a worker fails and you might have used a circuit breaker and it still fails, then it's going to be more beneficial to use Roadrunner for you to be able to have AI agents that doesn't fail in terms of the flow execution whenever maybe the service is down and all of that. Because what is Roadrunner mostly used for is to build microservices. There's something which we call microservices in software development, and that allows you to have to use the principle of handshake between two communication layers or two platforms that needs to communicate with one another. For instance, you need an AI agent to be able to communicate with an LLM, and after communicating with an LLM, to communicate with a system as well. So you can build the communication between your LLM and your system to be based on Roadrunner microservices architectures, right? Then it allows you to have a guarantee to say the only time when this system is going to say the job has been done is when the communication was established and a handshake principle was then implemented between, or was achieved between, the two services that are in question, right? Then another one that I think most people are not using, but they have to utilize it, is the one which we call Temporal, right? So Temporal is, you can even search this, these technologies online. You can say Temporal, just say Roadrunner Temporal, because Temporal comes with Roadrunner. You can say Roadrunner Temporal, then you can see the technology and see what it does, right? But we're still going to show you hands-on implementations of how to use Roadrunner and Temporal into building your AI agents on top of what we have done so far. Because what we have done so far was to have your AI, your Laravel communicating with your AI SDK and also communicating with your LLM and Claude, then what we did as well was to have a database implemented in terms of finding drivers and all of those kind of stuff, right? But when you now add temporal, you sort of like building agents that can wake up to execute a certain task, then they go back to sleep. So, for instance, what is that useful for? Sometimes you want to build an autonomous system that sort of like triggers itself in terms of I need to be on, which means it needs to wake up, right? So it needs to be on, wake up, and turn on different, maybe let's say turn on different parameters within your system. Then after it has successfully done that, it can go to sleep. Right. So you have an AI agent that only works on turning on certain things, right? If there are certain apps that you want to run, or there are certain agents that you want to execute at a certain time, what you can do is to implement temporal. Temporal is going to say, okay, I'm going to wake up, execute, turn these agents on. Then the agents are going to be on up until a certain time. When their task has been done, they go back to sleep. So there are different tasks in which you might build an AI agent that does that. So you don't want an AI agent that is continuously running and continue to keep on polling to see if now it can do the task, now it can do the task, now it can do the task, right? It's very important to have temporal into your system as well, because now the most prevalent technology that is mostly used when you're building AI agents in terms of the AI agent knowing when it is the right time to execute a certain task is when you are using event-based notification. For instance, there's a certain event that happened within your system that triggered the AI to wake up and execute a certain task. So you're going to see that we've used a lot of socket technology. We use a lot of socket technology. Within Laravel, we have what is called Reverb. So we'll use a Reverb. There are also other technologies that are out there that can facilitate the communication between real-time event tracking, such as your Pusher.js as well. But Pusher wants you to have money in order for you to be able to use their system, because it's a cloud-based system. But there is a local-based system which is built in with Laravel, which is Reverb, and we have used Reverb. We find out that Reverb actually does what we wanted to do, for the fact that it is able to subscribe into events and executes those different types of events and send them into the AI agent to be able to know that now it is time to execute different tasks, right? You might have noticed that in our sessions, we hardly become strict as to what is the way you can structure your AI agents, because there are very different types of ways that you can structure agents. But what we give you is what we believe is the efficient approach that is going to help you to build reliable autonomous agents that are able to execute the task at hand, right? So in the industry currently, what is being prevalent is that people are using more of what you call the people in finance. Yes, basically people in finance are using more of AI agents to execute agentic workflow, such as onboarding your customers, your KYC onboarding, knowing your customers, collecting customers' IDs, verifying their ID with a certain ID verifying provider, and from that they communicate back in terms of this information is correct and all of that, send an email to their client welcoming them and all of those kind of stuff, right? There are a lot of things you can do with AI, and we do feel like it is being underutilized at the moment, but innovation comes from people who can be able to identify a gap and be able to come with a solution. So I believe that this is you guys who are going to be able to do that, right? Yeah. Our session, I think, for a recap, on a recap perspective, we're gonna keep it here, But what I'm going to be doing as a response to what people have been requesting, because a lot of people have been requesting that I do the videos in this format, what I will do as well is to do the demonstration in this format, where I record myself live, do the demos, have them on YouTube, and people will be able to access the pre-recorded sessions and be able to continue with continue with the course and be able to follow up. And I so wish to see the projects that you guys are going to build using the principles of AI agents that you're busy grasping within this course. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. You can ask me directly on my DM, since you have my phone number, or you can just comment on these videos. Your comments are going to be able to help us into how to improve the facilitation of this module, because it's still a new module. AI agents are still fairly new to a lot of people. You will find out that you're teaching AI agents to someone who hasn't even touched code in their life. They are not into IT. They haven't even touched a computer. They don't know how to turn the computer on. But as I always say, the limitations in terms of building technological stuff nowadays is not merely your ability to write code, but it's your ability to write English. If you know how to write English and be able to phrase and tell the AI coding agent what is it that you want to do, you can be able to achieve it, because it's going to give you that feedback loop, and you're going to have that human in the loop where it gives you the errors. It's going to tell you this is the problem with what you want to do, and this is the proposed solution, and you're going to interact with it on that level. So it's going to help you to be able to achieve the results of your projects that you're looking to. Yes. With that said, this concludes our first recap mini session, but we're gonna have a lot of sessions that are going to be built in this way, so that we interact and you guys are able to build real life projects with the principles that you're going to be learning here with regards to the fundamentals of AI agents. Right, that said, goodbye.